The second video is the best practice about the Project DigiCoop, Digital Cooperative Platform, presented by the Trentino Cooperative Federation. Share screen. Dialog.
Buongiorno, sono Raul Daoli, sono Project Manager della Federazione Trentina della Cooperazione.
Good morning, I am Raul Daoli and I'm Project Manager at the Federation of the Trentino Cooperatives. I am Project Manager and I am the coordinator of the project called Welfare Platform. Such project is designed for the Trentino area, so it is a territorial project. And shortly I will illustrate to you the main objectives of this project and of the welfare platform. Along with this, I will also show to you which were the instruments and the methodologies used in order to develop this project. But before starting with this, I will introduce the organization I'm working for, which is Cooperazione Trentina. The Cooperazione Trentina is a federation which embraces more than 500 cooperatives on the whole provincial territory. Such cooperatives, they are working and active in different sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, credit and banking, retail, and many others. And among these many other sectors, also the social sector, construction, and job policies. The Trentino territory is characterized by a broad number of cooperatives. These cooperatives, they hire more than 20,000 workers, and the associates to these are more than 280,000. Such figure is rather high, taking in consideration that the total population of Trentino accounts for 500,000 people. That means that more than 1 in 2 is a stakeholder in a cooperative. With this following picture, I want to show you that cooperatives are not only inborn in a city or metropolitan area, but also on the rural areas and in the small municipalities which characterize the Trentino territory. This is quite important for the welfare platform project, which I will illustrate shortly. If cooperatives are spread all over the territory, the welfare can be spread too. It means that also people living in rural and distant location, they can benefit from the welfare platform and from the services offered by it. The Trentino territory is characterized by some difficulties and criticalities. One of the main threats affecting the territory is the continuous aging of the population, as you can see from the slide. The continuous aging of population and the low birth rate, such phenomena are reflected by the new needs and new services requested by this aging population. Also, globalization and the sharing economy had this effect on the territory. The globalization with models such as Uber and Amazon had this effect also on this peripheral territory of Trentino. Such models are called one-to-one. That means that welfare is distributed between the distributor and the receiver. This, of course, affects the territory because welfare is not spread outside the one-to-one relation. The logic behind the welfare platform is quite different. It strays from this idea and it takes into account the possibility to spread welfare not only in the one-to-one relation, but in a network relation. This, of course, is a value added for the whole society. In this welfare model, people are at the center of the network, and the network of relationships is essential in order to create cooperation and to create an added value for the whole territory. That means, for example, that an economic advantage for the individual will also be reflected into an economic advantage for the whole society. But how did we do that? We managed to create this through a web platform with some special ingredients in it. Central to this platform is the role of the community manager, able to identify the single users of the platform. Single users of the platform can access to the platform, of course, by the use of their smartphone or through their associative card. This, of course, enables the identification of the subject and her or his belonging to a single social cooperative.
Al centro che agevolasse la relazione e la collaborazione, la cooperazione.
This logic enables the possibility to create a network among the single cooperatives, or let's call them enterprises, meaning that such enterprises can offer their services or products in a broader network. In such a way, it is possible for individuals and for enterprises to associate, create purchase groups in order to share a better economic added value and to gain from this network logic. But the logic strays from the possibility of creating purchase group, and it goes to the possibility to create debates, to confront each other, to discuss on the hottest topic and on the most important topic for the cooperative life. This, of course, resembles the logic of a community, of a blog, where people interact, express their mind. At the end of this process, the associates of the cooperatives, they come up with a solution. Apart from the blogs and the chats where the associate can interact, some voting tools have been implemented in order to come up with a final decision. Final and shared decision. This first part describes how decisions are taken after a sharing logic, but the welfare platform offers a virtual marketplace, a market where services, product and know-how are put to common factor for a better understanding and sharing of the welfare. This marketplace, it is an important tool in order to analyze the demand, the evolution of the needs, and the future perspective of the market. After such analysis, it will be possible to cross and to meet the supply and demand side of the market. The third element of the welfare platform is called e-wallet. In this cyber wallet, it is possible to spare coins, so-called tokens, which enable the purchaser to have a higher purchasing power. For the near future, it is foreseen to create a social coin useful for the purchases on such platform, which resembles in every aspect a real economic system. Another element of the platform, which is one of the most representative, is the smart contract, a system through which it is possible to virtually sign contracts which are going to create the added value and to establish new networks in the welfare system of the territory of Trentino. So, combining the four different aspects of the platform, which are the community, the marketplace, the e-wallet and the smart contract through the blockchain, through the example depicted with Lego blocks, you can see here a representation of Trentino, where we can map different project, intersection, communities, wallet transaction, signature of smart contract, and every single transaction on the marketplace occurred among the subjects operating on the welfare platform. At the moment, we have about 10 running projects. Such projects were cited and described in the distributed form, analyzing the welfare platform. Coming to the analysis of the actors of the network, we can see that at the core of the whole, there is the Federazione Trentina delle Cooperative, whose role is that of connecting different sectors, such as the public administration, the market, the civil society, and the third sector. The broader picture wants to and wishes to embrace the whole society, spanning from social enterprises to non-cooperative enterprises to cooperative enterprises, public actors, and of course, as said, the civil society, meaning the whole citizenship. In conclusion, this complex and broad set of actors, they can create a so-called social market. In a combined way, this social market can address and respond fully to the citizenship needs. For example, in this broad offer, we could find product spanning from shelf product for shopping, babysitting services, and caregiving services. For this reason, the platform will be a real useful tool in the near future, aiding and helping the people who are hindered and unable to exit from their homes, maybe also for health reasons, and they could go directly on the welfare platform and purchase the needed services and products. A present example could be that of the pandemic of coronavirus, which made it necessary to have services such as shop at home and delivery at home. The welfare platform will serve this need and respond fully to the necessity of the citizenship. So finally, combining all these services present in the territory, the welfare platform fully responds to the needs of families, which are the main target for services and product offered on the real market. The welfare platform responds to these needs in a more interactive way, and it addresses the needs in a more timely way. The welfare platform will offer product and services useful for the single person and family, and it will address not only the first necessity but also the necessity to have a broad offer for leisure time, for health and welfare, for hobby and organizatory solution, for education, and of course of shopping. The welfare platform is active, but still under experimentation. Some services must be implemented. We are keeping track and monitoring the whole process and the evolution of the welfare platform, and I hope that when time is due and when it will be possible, we will be able to present you with further insights and data about the use and the services offered by the welfare platform.
Ci sarà l'occasione anche di incontrarci, di vederla più nel dettaglio e di poter entrare anche a valutare i primi risultati di questa esperienza.
Thank you for your attention and see you soon.
So this was the second best practice presented by Trentino Federation of Cooperation. We do have our colleagues here, Raul Dauli and Elena Badeansky joining us. If you have question or observation, feel free to express yourself. And I feel like I was given the advice to have a short break after this second video and after your question. We will have 5 to 10 minutes. And then we will follow with the remaining 2 videos. Maybe I can ask the colleagues if they, of the colleagues of Trentino Federation of Cooperation, if they can give a couple of examples about the platform, or if there are any recent updates or something that they want to add to the description we had through the video.
Maybe I can say something.
Thank you.
Not about examples, because I will leave the floor to Daoli for examples, but I only would like to underline the kind of involvement of the stakeholders, which is quite well described in the written paper, but maybe it was a little less evident in the presentation. In this case study, we have a combination of involvement of the stakeholders. It's not top to down, but neither bottom up. It's a combination of both, because we had top level involvement of the stakeholders at the federation level with the board members, with representative of the economic fields, and then we have also an involvement of the experts and they say the entrepreneur, cooperative entrepreneurs, but so private organization, and also, of course, the involvement of the employees, so bottom up, which was one of the important parts, especially during the testing with welfare within our federation. And another level of involvement was private-public, because let's say at the end of the first testing action, there was a formalization of the engagement between public and private sectors through a memorandum of understanding, which was signed between the province of Trento and the federation for using and how to use this platform. So I just summarized the different levels of involvement, if this could be useful for you. Concerning the examples, I think that Raul is much more updated than me about this, but maybe we need to translate for him.
Okay, thank you, Elena. As you were correctly underlining, the partnership expressed in the paper we handed out was well stressing these points. And since we are talking about social dialogue, it was also important to underline this part. I think that it is also important, as you were mentioning, to underline the different thematic groups that were organized as produced in the paper, taking in consideration discussion tables and thematic groups concerning the local welfare, the implementation of corporate welfare planning, integrated services, fair services, local services, and income support services, of which we will also see a second case study later after the break, and experience in tourism and sustainable mobility services. These were some of the round tables and discussion tables that were organized in order to achieve some good results with the platform. The platform is quite new and still ongoing and still developing. I think that maybe Raul can add something to this. Where is he? Raul, ecco.
Sì,
Chiedevo magari se
sì,
qualche esempio, magari
sì.
qualche considerazione sullo sviluppo della piattaforma.
Sì, adesso, causa anche di questa situazione di pandemia, i tempi sono slittati di alcuni mesi, però c'è già l'avvio di alcuni progetti concreti. Soprattutto vorrei citare, ad esempio, il gruppo di acquisto per l'energia, che si chiama Etica, questo gruppo, che raccoglie già 55.000 adesioni in Trentino, e quindi è un gruppo di acquisto per l'energia di casa delle famiglie, molto scontato sul prezzo dell'energia, ma che impegna i fornitori a versare dei fondi per i progetti sociali del territorio, e in questo progetto siamo già in grado di erogare più di 1 milione di euro all'anno sulla progettazione sociale del territorio. E grazie a uno smart contract, ad esempio l'atto piattaforma, questo progetto potrà avere ulteriori sviluppi e anche nuovi meccanismi anche di partecipazione da parte del territorio.
Okay, so one good example proposed by Raul was this one. He is mentioning that the platform witnessed some slowdowns in this period, as many activities were facing in this period due to the pandemic. The organization of activities was quite slowed down, but still is proceeding. He gives us an example about an energy purchasing group which was set up since some month, and it is called Etica, and is as said, an energy purchasing group for households. The characteristic of this project is the following. Some of the, apart from being at reduced fare for the household, for the people purchasing energy from Etica, some funds from the energy providers, from their incomes, they are reversed to social projects such that the welfare is spread through the territory, and annually it is foreseen that about or more than €1 million will be invested in the welfare of the territory and on social projects. Observation, similarities with other projects in your territories, possibility to exploit this idea and apply it to your territory.
Just I think that the case studies was really very interesting. Also because we are facing all over Europe and also in our region, of course, the demographic challenge, and so the need to rethink about the welfare systems, of course, at the local level. What characterizes this case studies is, of course, a strong tradition, cooperative tradition that we don't have the same. We are thinking about also to exploit micro entrepreneurship to create networks at that level. So social innovation and use of smart devices, smart platforms, and so on. It seems to me very interesting. So we can for sure apply many aspects of your methodology, in which, of course, the social dialogue is something that is more informal. Is the basis that you have to involve the people in making something together. So it's really very interesting. The challenge is how to create this kind of things when you don't have the same cooperative tradition as in Trentino, that is really very diffused and distributed all over the country. It's a small villages. I know a bit about Trentino. I know that it works in that way. This is the challenge, but it was very interesting. So thanks a lot for your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Furio. Maybe Elena can add something, because there were some interesting figures about the cooperative enterprise sector in Trentino, and I think they need to be underlined for to ease everybody to understand why we reach this result and why it is possible to have such tools in the Trentino territory.
Well, first I will answer to the previous intervention. I mean, because I noticed he knows a little bit about Trentino, but you wouldn't believe, but even if we have this so rooted model of entrepreneurship, it was really difficult. It's still difficult. Collaboration, the cooperation is not taken for granted, because there are so many interests, and you have to answer to all of them. And it is like in a family, meets the needs of everybody. It's a continuous process. What I would maybe I could say about the cooperatives, yeah, it's this model maybe facilitate a little bit the cooperation with between the different sectors. Not a little bit, a lot. We can say this, but today I think that the dialogue, and it's quite important, even if this kind of entrepreneurial model is not rooted in your local context. what is, I think, in my opinion, very important about this case study is the possibility to be transferred in other countries, because it can be implemented in all the fields. We gave some example about energy, urban areas, but actually can be implemented about everywhere. I'm going to take advantage of this space, the room I have to launch an invitation, actually. If you would like to try to understand how can be transfer modelized in your context, we are going to explore this possibility within Horizon 27 next year. So we think that we want to put the basis and modelize better how this model can be transferred and also to share and learn from the others. Sorry for this break it. I took advantage to invite you to let me know if you might be interested in understanding how to transfer and take part in future projects. Going back to your question about the cooperative, yeah, cooperative here are an important economic system, and it's a question also for a lot of training. We also invest a lot in training people to cooperate. The Federation actually is providing a lot of training programs from schools to adults to maintain this kind of mindset about cooperation and collaboration. I don't want to explain really what are the cooperative, because I think that all the partners here know. I know more some of them. Diana from Bulgaria, and I know they already went in Trento, but if you want me, I can explain in few words the cooperative model, but I don't think this is the right session.
I have one question. Many thanks. It was a very interesting best practice. I would like to know how you overcome the challenge of GDPR because of the legal issues and the data security of the platform, because this is a very important issue. How could you develop a solution for that?
This is a question for Raul. I have an answer, but I think that Raul can, because it's one of the most important aspects actually.
Sì, noi abbiamo adottato intanto un codice etico, un codice di autoregolamentazione a tutela dei dati, se ho capito bene la questione, il mio inglese è un po' arrugginito, e questo quindi è un primo fattore. Abbiamo tutto un codice di rispetto della privacy, di gestione del dato. Il fatto che questa sia una piattaforma territoriale, quindi di welfare territoriale, comunque chi la gestisce non ha lo scopo del profitto e quindi anche il possesso dei dati. Si sta pensando a un modello cooperativo, cioè di creare una cooperativa che ha la proprietà dei dati di questa piattaforma, in modo che anche la profilazione dei singoli dati delle persone, laddove autorizzati, che possono essere utilizzati per creare nuovi servizi, nuove risposte, siano comunque un valore che resta al territorio, alla cooperazione e non è di proprietà quindi di una multinazionale o di un approccio basato solo sul profitto. E quindi con trasparenza, con rendicontazione sociale e con un codice etico di comportamento.
Qualcuno? Could we possibly have a translation for
yes,
that, please? Thank you.
As Raul was mentioning, inside of this project they adopted an ethic code, and they also have a self-protection code for data security, so to overcome the issues that were set by the GDPR. And the basic and the core idea is that data will not be used to make profit as corporations do. Data will not be sold in order to make profit or made available for third parties, but they will be stored in a new cooperative which will make the best use of this data in order to further expand the welfare. So it will be, this data will be used to further implement the platform. So just those subjects inside the platform will benefit from the data.
It means that the end users are going to undersign, for instance, these regulations that their data is not going to be used for such commercial purposes, but they might be used for the purpose of research and development for the government.
Exactly, from the explanation that we had from Raul, the data will be used also just internally in the platform.
Okay. And would it be saved in the local and public platform, or is the private sector here involved to, I use the German word, to extract the data and analyze the data?
So your question is about whether they are public or private domain or propriety?
If the data stays in the public part or the private sector.
Ok, Raul, quindi i dati vengono storati e salvati nella parte pubblica o privata della piattaforma?
Ma c'è una parte di progetti che per quanto rispondono al codice etico che dicevo e eventualmente questa cooperativa di proprietà del dato sono comunque su una macchina privata, quindi della federazione, della cooperazione. Mentre invece per quanto riguarda i progetti più articolati si pensava appunto all'uso della blockchain e quindi questo in un qualche modo dà anche una dimensione trasparente e pubblicistica e non proprio pubblica, perché non è un ente pubblico, però grazie alla logica dei registri condivisi, insomma, per cui si può prendere il singolo dato e farne l'uso solo specifico e non mantenerne invece il possesso, dà quelle garanzie, insomma, di tutela anche del dato delle persone. Poi è un progetto sperimentale, quindi anche noi stiamo riflettendo su questi aspetti. Giova a ricordare che la cooperazione non ha scopo di profitto nella sua costituzione, insomma, ma ha scopo di mutualità.
So I think that the two most important messages were this last one, but I will rephrase it all. The first one is to mention that cooperation has a mutual scope, so not a profit scope, and the data hence are not used to make further profit. The second aspect is that the platform is still experimental and they're still asking themselves how to make use and how to manage this data, of course, in sight and in light of the GDPR, in order to be compliant and not to incur in any type of problem. And as Raul was mentioning, is that part of the project will make use of private storage. So they will be stored, the data will be stored on hard drives of Trentino Corporation of Federation of Cooperative, and while other part will benefit from the blockchain logic, hence they will be partly public, but just for the use and the purposes of the platform.
So for the need of the part which is the marketplace, the data would not be available for the service providers?
La domanda è se...
Have I understood it right? That's one of the dimensions of this model was the marketplace. And the blockchain is going to provide the transparency. So according to the part which is for the marketplace, it's important that the service providers also have access to this data. in
Yes.
order to
Well,
analyze and extract and provide the right services?
Let's start from the beginning. Is because the model it's quite complex and intricate. It's a B to B to C to C. It means that business to business, business to consumer, and consumer to consumer.
Exactly.
That means that part of the data will be cross and public to each side, and most part of them will not be public. Of course, part of the data will be available to the supplier of services and products, but non-transferable. Giusto, Raul?
Sì. L'ultima C sta anche per community, non solo consumer.
Come?
Nel nostro modello l'ultima C non è solo consumer ma anche community, cioè c'è una restituzione del valore di questa piattaforma in progetti proprio sui territori.
So he was mentioning that the last C of this long acronym, it stands for communities, because it's not just business and consumers, but also communities which will benefit from the produced welfare.
Okay.
And it's quite complex to give a unique answer to your question, because the project is in its initial stages and each single aspect has to be duly analyzed, and before taking further steps, we know that GDPR is quite complex and it will complicate a bit the rules and the everyday activities of business. But I feel like that this platform, given the fact that will not sell out to third party the data, will find the best solution in order to cope with the GDPR.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Anybody else with question, observation? No.
Let's go.
Maya, do you have a question?
Today we have here a representative of cooperative union in Bulgaria. So I think that this digital platform will be very useful for us. And after that, when it started, I think that you can transfer to us and to try to make it in here. And the other, I have a question about this section with the contract managers area. Who will manage with this section of this digital platform? Where will be the contracts between business and final customers?
So where will be the contract between the end user and the offer, the demand?
Who will manage? Who will maintain this section of the platform?
Chi andrà a gestire il contratto, la contrattualizzazione, quindi l'accordo tra le parti, l'offerta e la domanda di mercato, quindi tra l'end user, l'utilizzatore finale e le cooperative presenti sulla piattaforma?
Sì, questo dipende un po' dai progetti, perché quando noi diciamo piattaforma evochiamo lo strumento. È come una macchina, tu puoi decidere poi con quella macchina il viaggio che vuoi fare, no? Quindi a bordo di questa macchina ci possono essere tanti progetti. Quello di welfare territoriale, quello del gruppo di acquisto dell'energia sono i primi che sono partiti. A seconda dei tipi di progetti, diciamo che la proprietà e il modo di utilizzare, insomma, lo strumento può variare. Alla base comunque c'è come dire, il ruolo, come è stato mostrato nel video, di attore di coalizione, quindi di proprietario comunque della macchina, della federazione, e credo, insomma, mi permetto di dire che comunque la federazione è un valore, cioè una garanzia anche per il territorio all'interno, sia per la sua tradizione, sia per la sua natura giuridica, di tutela e garanzia rispetto quindi agli schemi di partecipazione e quindi anche di proprietà della piattaforma. Resta comunque una piattaforma della cooperazione trentina, della Federazione Trentina della Cooperazione.
Sorry. So your question was about who will manage the contractualization and the relationship between end user, a user, and the producer. So the services. And as Raul was mentioning, is that when we talk about platform is a broad term to approach the thematic, so it doesn't have a single answer, but it will really depend upon the instrument and the type of services offered, but as Regist, so who will manage the whole thing in this period nowadays will be the federation taking the coordination, but it is not necessarily the case of the future. This will depend also on how the platform will develop in the near future and what other type of instruments will be developed.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. I see there is also a comment by Giusy, who is one of our stakeholders in Trentino. She's writing here in the chat, and I can read it for all. In this case, the managing system is very complex. My organization, the local consortium of social cooperative, is involved in one project, Abitare il Futuro, Autonomous Living for Disability. And there is a specific group that mixes that strategic and technical expertise. There is a strong investment in the relationship with families and beneficiaries by social organizations and social operators. So storytelling is really important, is very important in this project. Thank you, Giusy, for your comments. Okay, if we do not have any further question, we will take a short break, and we will conclude after the break with the two remaining best practices or case studies. Study visit in Trentino and Trentino Solidarity Fund. I invite you to close your mics, and if you wish also to close your cam, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. So we are waiting for the participants to reconnect with us, and then we will proceed with the next case study. The next case study is the Trentino Solidarity Fund, presented by the labor union CGL. We'll wait 1 other minute for most of the people to join us, and then I will launch the video. Maya, how is the situation in Bulgaria right now?
Like in Italy, and we expect that on 13th of May, so next week, the more restriction will fall down. We are on our work, only restaurants, hotels, small houses for guests are not working. So the situation here.
Well, here in Italy, since of yesterday, we can meet our relatives, but just one person at a time. And then in 2 weeks, they will draw the line and see if further lockdown measures will need to be implemented. But as of now, cases are slightly declining in most of the regions. And we hope it keeps like that. At the moment, just restaurants, bars, coiffeurs, and estheticians, they're closed, but and they are quite in a rough position because they have been closed for months now, and you know that they need to pay salaries and rents and products, and will be a mess.
The situation was similar here because the restaurants and hotels are.
The situation is quite complex, but maybe one answer to this problem will be offered by the next case study, by the Solidarity Fund.
Okay.
We hope so.
You see.
I feel like most of us, they are connected, so I will start the video. Otherwise, we will prolong the meeting for too long. So as said, I will share with you my screen and show you the case study of Trentino Solidarity Fund presented by Andrea Grosselli, Secretariat of CGL, Labor Union, local labor union. And afterwards, feel free, as always, to give your observation or make any question.
Il Fondo di solidarietà del Trentino è lo strumento che le parti sociali, insieme alla Provincia Autonoma di Trento, hanno scelto.
The Trentino Solidarity Fund is an instrument promoted by the Autonomous Province of Trento in close synergy with both employer and trade union. Such entities decided to start a fund in order to offer a social safety net and income stabilizer for all workers working in small, medium and micro enterprises. This instrument is an aid to all workers who are suspended from work due to layoffs or due to a reduction in demand of products or services offered on the market. Until 2015, such instrument was not at disposal of micro, small and medium enterprises, but just to large enterprises who could use standard tools such as layoffs and banking hours. Until that time, just construction enterprises and large production such as industry and manufacture could benefit from such measure, but it is at the national level since 2015 that micro and small enterprises can benefit from such measures. The measure put in place with this instrument of the Trentino Social Fund are active when enterprises face a significant decline in demand and when the required labor force is consequently affected. Workers are usually temporarily suspended and layoffs are measured not available for the micro and small medium enterprises. The Trentino Solidarity Fund is a structured instrument that can fully face economic crises, both systemic and enterprise-related ones. Trentino acted ahead of this reform of 2015 and already in 2009 acted regionally with some measures. In 2009, trade unions, labor unions, acted directly on round table with the national government in order to establish a labor reform where active and passive labor policies were demanded regionally and where income support were delegated and decided at a regional level. We can well say that the Trentino region was recognized with further powers in deciding how to act in order to prevent and to sustain micro, small and medium enterprises. This is particularly significant for the Trentino territory because about 90% of the whole economic tissue is formed by micro, small and medium enterprises. The difference between the Trentino Solidarity Fund and the national measure is that Trentino decided to expand its power and to expand its measure even to micro enterprises, whereas at the national level this was not possible, expanding the sustainable and sustaining measures also to those enterprises hiring just one person. Hence, micro enterprises, they can suspend their workers and the Solidarity Fund will pay their incomes. But how and where do the Solidarity Fund find its resources? About 1/3 of the total sum is formed by contribution by the single workers, and the remaining 2/3 of the total sum are funded by the enterprises themselves. The percentage is about 0.45% of the total monthly or annual income of the workers. So just one little part is deducted from income and it goes directly into the fund. The additional decision by the trade and labor unions, particularly that of labor unions, was that of investing further, not just to sustain income of the layoff workers, but also to boost and to proceed in the continuous education of the workers. It is well known that a skilled and educated worker will have better opportunity on the market, hence also for the enterprises and for the workers themselves. This is one of the main points which were highlighted by the labor unions, because particularly in micro enterprises, the educational pattern was stopped at the beginning of the hiring of workers. It is particularly significant having a fund dedicated wholly to education besides layoffs and income sustain measures. Microenterprises, they tend not to invest and have high investment rate into education because most of them are constituted by 3, 4, or 5 workers. And having one worker dedicated to education, even for short periods, implies a decline in working production.
Il turismo è una fetta molto importante del territorio trentino.
Such measure has been also used in order to implement the so-called income stabilizer for seasonal workers, such as workers in the touristic sector. As we all know, for Trentino, the touristic sector is fundamental and a lot of people are working in this sector. Hence, it has been thought that expanding this Solidarity Fund also to these segments or set of workers is fundamental in order to guarantee them the possibility to have a stable income in the non-working periods. The Trentino Solidarity Fund has been also used and thought to be a useful instrument for the so-called age management of workers, and in particular it has been used in order to facilitate the retiring periods of older workers in order to favor faster turnover of workers. The instrument I'm talking about has turned out to be fundamental in this very period. The COVID pandemic made this instrument fundamental for the stability and the prosecution of economic activities in Trentino. In particular, as an example, we can cite that touristic activities such as hotellerie and hotels management had to stop due to the pandemic at the end of February, beginning of March, and this has prevented such activities to follow in the following months, such as April and May. But also other activities, economic activities, have been affected, particularly in the tertiary sector. And we can recall the example of bar, pubs, restaurants, and small shops. And thanks to the Trentino Solidarity Fund, such activity made it possible to keep their workers and employees in the enterprise, and they could guarantee them also a source of income. Of course, the income is not paid by the enterprises, but from the fund itself. And the positive side of this is that the mutuality factor made it possible to have this funding, these resources, and prevented major layoffs of people. At the moment, giving some figures about this instrument, we can say that about 8,000 enterprises are participating in the Trentino Solidarity Fund. That implies that about 55,000 workers can benefit from this measure. That means that more than 1/3 of the totality of workers and employees in the private sector can benefit from this measure. In this very moment, the Trentino Solidarity Fund is used as an income stabilizer, though the instrument is the result of a collective bargaining by labor unions, representative of the enterprises and workers. At the moment, the fund is managed also by the National Social Security Institution, called INPS, which is the national institution who offers and pays out pensions, pays unemployment wages, and so on. This is how the Trentino Solidarity Fund is nowadays working, but once again I wish to underline that this fund was meant also to sustain and to aid the continuous education of workers, and labor union will stress that once again and will implement that part once the crisis and this difficult moment will be over. In addition to this, not only to continuous workers, but the education that will be promoted will also benefit those classes of so-called discontinuous or temporary workers who in certain periods of the year are not employed but need to strengthen their working figure, working position by expanding their knowledge and education.
Okay, so this was the third case study. This has been presented by Andrea Grosselli, who is joining us today. And as said in the form, in the paper produced, one comment is particularly important to me because it says that this tool is one of the strongest and most effective acquisition of social dialogue in the province of Trento in the last years. This is particularly true because collective bargaining, it is based on social dialogue. Parties, representative of workers, labor unions, and public sector, they interact in order to achieve a goal. Social dialogue is at the core, at the basis of this dialogue, of the bargaining. And as said, it is also good to underline the two major columns of this this instrument, which is offering a social safety net, so an economic instrument for workers suffering from layoffs or forced to be out of the labor market due to a slowdown in the production or request of services. And also really important is that of giving further possibility to educate and to expand knowledge and know-how in order to prevent to be discontinuous workers. Yes, if there are any observation or question, feel free. We have Andrea helping us answering your question, or your observation will be welcome. Maybe I can add this, that in the value matrix, as you can see, and it was also reported in the video, the three most important subjects were the province of Trento, Autonomous Province of Trento, then the enterprises as beneficiaries, and final beneficiary, the workers. And this work was correlated by and guided by the labor unions representing particularly micro and small and medium enterprises. As said in one of our previous chat with our dear partners, we were informally talking about the COVID situation, and we were wondering what will happen after this difficult period. And we were talking about the difficulties of enterprises. We underlined that in Trentino, and maybe in your regions too, the majority of enterprises are micro and small and medium enterprises, which will face a hard time when the crisis will be over, because of course we know that enterprises, they base their activities on money and the availability of liquidity. So this will be one of the major shortages, and many workers maybe will be affected by the COVID and the pandemic, not directly by the illness itself, by the virus, but by the economic consequences that this will bring to the society as a whole. Any observation, question? Ramon, your dear guest?
Yes, For us, it's very interesting, this measure, all about in this period of COVID, but we have some questions. The first is there a national fund that covers these risks? In this case, it's complementary because we don't understand very well. And the other question is the contributions of workers is compulsory.
Ok, Andrea, la prima domanda è se esiste un fondo nazionale che copre la gran parte del fondo di solidarietà, e la seconda è se la contribuzione da parte dei lavoratori è obbligatoria o volontaria. Microfono.
La contribuzione è obbligatoria. Esiste un fondo nazionale che fa le stesse cose del fondo territoriale. In questo caso però fondo nazionale e fondo territoriale sono separati. Il fondo territoriale del Trentino ha una platea, un bacino di lavoratori e di aziende anche più ampio del fondo nazionale, e questa è la differenza sostanziale, perché il fondo nazionale interessa solo le aziende che hanno più di 5 dipendenti. Quindi le microimprese non sono coperte dal fondo, mentre in Trentino si è deciso di estendere a tutte le imprese, comprese quelle con meno di 5 dipendenti, il fondo e quindi i benefici del fondo.
Okay, so Ramon, answering your question, the first answer is relative to the contribution of the workers. Yes, it is compulsory when the enterprises they join the tool, and it is about the 0.35% of the salary. So it doesn't affect too much this contribution to the salary, but putting together the small percentages, it makes it possible to have sufficient fund in order to prevent and to act in moment of crisis. The second one is a specification relative to the presence of a national or a territorial fund. As said, there are two types, there are two funds. One is territorial, and it was developed ahead of the national fund, and it is relative to just to the Trentino region. As said at the opening of this meeting, Trentino benefits from special powers, legislative powers, so we could implement the national law and produce this instrument autonomously and ahead of the national territory. But they are two separate instruments and tools. They are not connected. We benefit just from the territorial fund, so the Trentino Solidarity Fund. And the main difference is that on a national level, the fund is at benefit of enterprises with more than 5 workers, hiring more than 5 workers, while in Trentino, enterprises, even with with just 1 worker, can benefit and enter in the logic of this instrument, so they can benefit from the funds. The idea, and Andrea was mentioning also that the Trentino Fund is offered, and the beneficiaries are more in terms of figures at a territorial level than at a national level. So many more workers are associated to this instrument in Trentino than at a national level. So we can well say that it is a useful and shared, and it is let's say, loved by small enterprises and workers in Trentino. They feel it like it is a good instrument which can sustain workers and enterprises in moments of crisis or in the so-called discontinuous working season. So when the workers are not, some workers are affected by seasonality of work. So sometimes they work for 8, 3, 6 months, and then they do not have a contract, but they can benefit from further education and building their knowledge in these discontinuous moments. I see that you in Spain, you had your labor unions joining the meeting today, so maybe they can give their impression even in Spanish if they wish, or in English.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to know if, in case of layoffs or work time reductions, the Trentino fund covers the 100% of salary.
Andrea. La domanda è se il fondo riesce a coprire per intero la quota dello stipendio o se ha una percentuale come nei casi della disoccupazione dove non copre al 100%.
Sì, copre l'80% del salario, con dei tetti però, quindi fino a un massimo di 950 euro per un livello salariale o fino a un massimo di 1100 euro. Questi sono i due tetti che vengono coperti.
So they do not cover the totality of the salaries, but it covers about 80% with two ceilings. One is set at 950 euros and the second one is set at 1,100 euros. Per me, al mese, giusto? Sì. Per month.
I have two questions. Do you have any data till the moment? How many companies, SMEs and micro companies, have benefit from these two instruments? And what kind of trainings they preferred in Trentino exactly?
Andrea, allora, quante imprese hanno beneficiato dello strumento e che tipo di formazione hanno richiesto? Se era una scelta autonoma, quella dei corsi di formazione, o se è una scelta magari guidata piuttosto che dai sindacati?
Allora, in questo momento lo strumento, nel momento della crisi di Covid, lo strumento è utilizzato per lo più per le integrazioni salariali e gli stabilizzatori economici, stabilizzatori automatici del reddito, tipo il Kurzarbeit tedesco. Quindi la misura utilizzata in questo momento è pressoché per la totalità questo strumento di integrazione del reddito. In questo momento lo stanno usando 4.000 imprese su un totale di 8.700 imprese aderenti, quindi quasi la metà delle imprese lo sta utilizzando, perché le imprese più colpite dalla crisi economica legata all'emergenza sanitaria Covid sono le imprese del turismo, le imprese del piccolo commercio, della ristorazione e delle attività connesse a queste piccolissime imprese. Solo un numero per dire che in Trentino ci sono 18.000 lavoratori stagionali del turismo e degli esercizi pubblici, quindi dei bar, dei ristoranti, eccetera. 18.000 lavoratori ogni anno. Questi lavoratori in questo momento sono fermi perché gli alberghi di fatto sono chiusi, i ristoranti sono chiusi, i bar sono chiusi e quindi quelle attività non possono dare lavoro. Sulla formazione, lo strumento era all'inizio del suo percorso, non era ancora attivo in maniera completa. Prima della crisi di Covid stavamo implementando le misure per la formazione, ma poi tutto si è bloccato a febbraio con l'emergenza Covid. L'idea della formazione era fare formazione professionalizzante, richiesta dalle imprese, utile alle imprese, e aggiungere dei moduli anche di key competence per gli stessi lavoratori, in modo che ci fosse sempre un po' di una fetta consistente di formazione professionalizzante, ma anche offrire le competenze chiave.
Okay, so answering to the question, the instrument is used now as broadly used as income stabilizers. It is a form of integrating a missing income or salary of workers, and it can be associated to the instrument called Kurzarbeit, which is present in the German labor market. Let's say that about 50% of the associated enterprises joining the Solidarity Fund are benefiting from this instrument. Andrea mentioned that about 4,000 enterprises are benefiting from this fund now due to the crisis arisen from the COVID situation. Most of the enterprises are active in tourism, small shop, restaurant, micro, small and medium enterprises, and it is mostly dedicated to the seasonal workers, as we were discussing earlier. In Trentino, we have about 18,000 seasonal workers, in particular in tourism, restaurant, pubs and bars each year. And right now, all of these are not working. This is has a great impact on the labor market, but the Solidarity Fund is trying to face and to prevent the loss of competencies, also to some measures, not only by implementing the social safety net and giving income stabilizing measures, but also offering educational modules, which were designed and still in its initial phase before the COVID crisis. But the logic behind the education is this. It is partly demanded by enterprises, so it is professionalizing education, so it's driven by enterprises. They request which type of education they workers they will need, and other modules, they are so-called the soft skills and key competencies, in order to allow workers to have a broad offer of education, to expand their knowledge and know-how, and also to be able, in case of losing their job, to find another occupation. I feel there is one other comment here by Slavka. She is saying, there are another big problem which will be more important than workers' market. There are no empty spaces in trade. Slavka, maybe can I ask you to expand your comments?
If you want, I can explain.
Yes.
I hear a lot of things about the workers, but I'm looking to this as a bridge strategy, let's say, because by this way you can save vitality of the factories and small subjects on the market. But the market itself is not static. And the major problem with business will have is a losing of how to say, market share. Because on this market coming people, coming economical subjects from other countries which are working at the moment, and you're losing your market share. I'm speaking about the backbone of economic production. So what is your plan about this? Because I think this will be a bigger problem, that problem with workers. Workers at the moment, we replace every day slowly by machines, but market, how we can prevent losing of the market share. That's very important for me as an entrepreneur.
Ok, thank you. Allora Andrea, il commento si riferisce un po' ad un secondo fenomeno che si apre legato alle dinamiche Covid, che è legato alle percentuali di mercato. Quindi da una parte abbiamo mercati chiusi o che al momento non possono agire, che al momento non possono mettere i loro lavoratori sulle macchine, mentre altri mercati e altre nazioni possono continuare a produrre e di conseguenza, ad esempio l'Italia o un'altra nazione, può perdere fette di mercato anche importanti e vitali per la prosecuzione dell'attività economica in futuro. C'è qualcosa in previsione anche per questo? Non parliamo di protezionismo di mercato, ma di protezione di una quota di mercato che duramente si è ricavata negli anni e con lo sviluppo delle competenze imprenditoriali della qualità della produzione italiana, nazionale o locale.
No, nel senso che i settori coperti da questo fondo, dal Fondo di Solidarietà del Trentino, non riguardano direttamente attività economiche aperte al mercato globale, alla globalizzazione, all'internazionalizzazione, quindi non sono aziende che esportano sui mercati internazionali, perché sono per lo più aziende che rispondono alla domanda interna e quindi sono micro aziende dei settori dei servizi, appunto bar, pub, ristoranti, cooperative per i servizi sociali, quindi rispondono per lo più a una domanda interna, oppure sono aziende del turismo, alberghi in particolare, che come dire, hanno un beneficio dall'essere normalmente un vantaggio competitivo, diciamo, dall'essere insediate appunto in un territorio a forte vocazione turistica, sia invernale per le aree sciistiche che ha il Trentino, sia estivo per il turismo che attira sui laghi, oppure sempre il turismo legato alla montagna e quindi al benessere e alla natura. Questi settori, come dire, appunto, non hanno bisogno in questo momento di strumenti per tutelare produzioni locali.
Okay, so Slavka, the answer to your question is that this instrument refers more to enterprises who answer to an internal demand. So these enterprises which can benefit from the Solidarity Fund, they are not exporting enterprises or big enterprises, but they are answering to a local demand. That's the difference with bigger manufacturing and industry sectors. We feel that this will be a problem in the near future also for Italy, but this is more a question for WTO than for our case. We know that some markets are still running and producing, but on the other hand, it is difficult to find and to come up with an answer to your question. In our case, as Andrea was mentioning, we refer to Trentino's enterprises. We know that the economic and productive tissue is formed by small enterprises who maybe they supply to bigger enterprises, and then lastly to industry. Let's see what comes out in the short, medium run. Maybe other measures will be taken, but that has to be a national answer from the territories. Territories must give their voice and their opinion, impression of how the economic situation is evolving, but taking up decision that will affect a nation economy or exporting policies is not up to our powers.
Se posso, Daniele, se c'è una risposta che le istituzioni locali, quindi il territorio, sta dando al bisogno di queste imprese manifatturiere che esportano, è quello, per restare sui mercati internazionali, è quello di garantire la riattivazione di queste attività economiche. E da lunedì tutte le attività manifatturiere in Italia e quindi anche in Trentino hanno ripreso la propria attività. Lo sforzo delle istituzioni locali è quello di garantire salute e sicurezza, quindi garantire tutti gli strumenti, tutti i protocolli, tutte le buone pratiche e il controllo di questi protocolli perché le imprese possano mettere al lavoro i propri operai, i propri addetti in sicurezza, riducendo il rischio di contagio nei luoghi di lavoro. Perché si è detto che lavorando su salute e sicurezza nei luoghi di lavoro, queste aziende possono ricominciare la produzione, possono tornare a rispondere alla domanda internazionale, ovviamente qualora la domanda internazionale ancora ci fosse.
Poi a livello costituzionale diciamo che la competenza sull'internazionalità del commercio non è locale.
Però qualcosina anche noi, come dire, promuoviamo i nostri prodotti, insomma in qualche modo la provincia sostiene l'internazionalizzazione delle imprese, anche la provincia. Poi ovviamente nei limiti di quello che può fare un territorio piccolo.
Non a livello di politiche.
No.
So Slavka, adding some further information to your question is that what the public sector, so the entities, the public bodies doing is that that of guaranteeing the safety standard, safety measure to be met in this difficult moment. They will look after the implementation of these corrective measures in order to have these to open again the economy and to open the small economy, let's call it the small and medium enterprises. They are looking for the implementation and they are checking after the implementation of this safety measure to be met. Locally, we do have a little power in terms of export. We do have some public-private companies trying to boost and to implement the export sector of Trentino, even if the competence is by constitutional law national. We can let the national institution hear our voices, but and decision is there in terms of policies. We can take up measures and trying to prevent from a depletion of our markets in terms of market share, but it's quite difficult right now. We are trying to safeguard what is going on locally, then nationally, and it will be a sum of all these measures that will turn out into an external policy or external policy measure, export policy measures. I feel like the meeting is going to be longer than what expected, so if there are no further observation or question, I will launch the fourth and last video, if that's okay to you. Okay.